about Mormonism that you felt like, did it clarify anything? And what questions, like what are the biggest questions that it made you ask?
I think I think it more so confused me because before watching that, we are a big housewife household. So in watching the Housewives of Salt Lake City, um, we kind of followed Heather Gay's story of how she is now outside of the church, but I remember there was this one episode where she actually reunited with some member of her family that she hadn't seen in like a really long time since she had been out of the church. And I also read her book, her first book, and she kind of really explained the celestial kingdom
Oh,
and basically how like because she was like she did this and she's no longer there, her family's here and this and that, and like just kind of explaining like the way that her family thought.
so like
And
saying that she can't be with them?
yes,
Okay.
and that but like that's what her family believed, and this and that. And I just remember at that point being like, oh wow, okay, that's deep. But then watching this show, it seemed like everyone, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, seemed like pretty proud of their faith and like very devout in it. But obviously, they're doing things that aren't going to lead them to that kingdom. So, I would say like the biggest confusion or the biggest thought that it gave me was if like is that the ultimate goal, like being part of the church and being part of that religion, like it you would think like that's the a temple wedding, not doing this, living this life and ending up there. But there's tiers, and you know there's things that there's a different path you can take, and you can end up below it, and
Yeah.
and certain things. And to me it was like, okay, well, like, well, then what's the point? Like to me it seems like it's a very all or nothing.
Mm.
And the middle of it is, I think, what's confusing to me
Huh.
is you have this idea of what a quote unquote perfect Mormon would be.
Yeah.
And then you have people like Lisa Barlow, who is a housewife and who loves the church, talks about it in such high praise, but she drinks
Yeah.
and she does so many things that
Yeah.
that the church is saying no, no, no.
Yeah.
But like, to me, I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, like, are we entering like a modern
Mm.
phase of the religion? Like, are things going to shift once, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, once
Yeah.
like maybe younger people step up? I mean,
That's
if
the
that
big question.
happens.
So, okay, that's so interesting. And it's again like so like of all the things I would think that you would know about Mormonism, I would not have guessed it would be like the three levels of heaven because that's like I
Thank
feel
you,
like that's
Heather
like
Gay.
way
And let this be fact that the housewives can teach you something in this life.
exactly. So, I mean, I think it comes down to like, oh my gosh, there's so many places to start. So, I think the reason that Mormonism is more perceived as more high demand and is more high demand than some other Christian religions is because of the temple. What you said at the beginning, right? Because you have to, in order to get a temple recommend, you have to be doing certain things, right? Word of wisdom, which is no drinking alcohol or coffee, right? Like obeying the law of chastity, paying tithing. Like there are things that you have to be doing to get in to have a temple recommend. So that is why it's like it is a like behavior based thing, right?
Can
And
you
so that's
lie?
why you could.
Like, I mean, technically, like, could you sip a coffee at home? Like,
Oh yeah.
and they would, yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
how would they know?
Not gonna stop you. And I'm sure there are people who have done that. And I like the bishop, the one who's doing the interview, is not going to be like, I sense that you're lying. It's not like
They're not going to
it's
sniff
like,
your breath.
yeah. But that's kind of a conversation that's happening a lot in the church now, because like is like you talk about other religions and you can say, oh, they're like an Orthodox, they're Orthodox Jew, or they're like Orthodox, or like practicing Catholic. And for Mormonism, I think because it's so new so far, it's just kind of been like we're all like, it is kind of that all or nothing.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have had that idea. But now it's really interesting. Like Gen Z people, especially, like a lot of them are just drinking coffee and they're like, I think it's fine. I think I'll be fine. And like, I don't know if they're drinking coffee and like lying and still going to the temple, or if they're just deciding, oh, I'm gonna be like, I'm okay to be at a lower level and that's fine with me. But it does seem like it's a total shift that's happening, where we're seeing like younger people having, like, we're starting to see different levels of the faith, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think what's interesting about the about Secret Lives is like when it came out, a lot of people in the church were really upset because um they were saying, well, that's not a representation of like a truly good, member of the church, which it's not. Most of them are not like on the strictest, one-way road to the celestial kingdom, right? But I think again it goes back to like one of the things that Taylor Frankie Paul said in an episode, where she was like, church isn't for people who are perfect, it's for people who are trying to get better, right? And so I think that like perfectionism and spiritual perfectionism specifically has been like a really big struggle in the church's history. And like, I think that that is something that people in the church like really struggle with. And it's something that like has tended to make for more devout members, but also be harder for people who aren't quite as devout, right? And so I think it's like you kind of have two camps of people in the church, and this is not official at all, but it's like you tend to find there's kind of like different personalities. Like even among the people speaking at General Conference, I feel like you can kind of suss out like some are very like justice focused and some are very mercy focused. And it's like the justice people are like, no, you have to do all the things and it's all about obedience. And like for me, like I hear that and I just get so stressed and I feel like I'm in trouble, and my like I have a lot of struggles with perfectionism, right? So like I gravitate towards someone else who's in the mercy camp, where it's like more of that Taylor Frankie Paul, where it's like everyone's welcome here, like we're trying, of course we're not perfect. So I think it just kind of like shows the struggle of religion in general, is that you're like trying to live to a standard, but the reality is that people are human.